Never date people you meet online. Today I'll tell you why. Even innocent kids suffered because of this monster. My channel covers many cases involving various moral degenerates, but this one is among the most disgusting because children should never be harmed. This case is one of the most horrifying the police have ever encountered. Many people leave their homeland in search of a better life abroad. This is exactly what inspired the heroine of our story to travel thousands of kilometers. During her 1.5 years in the United Kingdom, she faced all the difficulties familiar to migrants, successfully overcoming all but one. Bennylyn Burke was a native of the Philippines. She was born in November 1995. The girl became the hope of her parents, whose financial situation was extremely dire. From an early age, she showed herself to be smart and cheerful, ambitious, with big dreams and aspirations. At the age of 19, she met an older man, Bennylyn Burke, on a dating site. Her new acquaintance was 40 years older than her. He lived in the UK and was engaged in renting out properties. Their communication on the internet actively developed until the man expressed his desire to meet the girl in person. He came to the Philippines and saw that she indeed lived in poor conditions. But this girl caught his eye. The difference in social status did not deter the man, but only strengthened their bond. He stayed in the Philippines for his beloved, and they started dating. Soon after, the girl found out she was pregnant. Her lover was happy, proposed to her, and she agreed. In July 2018, the couple got married in the Philippines, and a month later, on August 20th, their daughter Jellica was born. Raising a child in the Philippines was unthinkable, so Lexington suggested she move to him. The girl thought about it for a while and finally decided to take this important step in her life for the sake of her daughter. She, her husband, and the baby moved to the United Kingdom in 2019. At that time, she was 24 years old. However, the couple's life together did not bring happiness. Besides the stress of moving to a new country, problems in their relationship began to arise. They quickly deteriorated, and the couple separated. Despite being alone with a child in a foreign country, she was not left to fend for herself. After the divorce, she moved with her daughter to a rented apartment in Kingswood, located just a few kilometers from Bristol. Her ex-husband rented the apartment. Bennylyn was full of enthusiasm, enjoying motherhood and dedicating all her efforts to the development and upbringing of her daughter. She often interacted with many single mothers in the park who were in similar situations. It was obvious to everyone that her daughter was her everything, and she was determined to provide her with a better life. Her ex-husband supported Bennylyn and their daughter, but she wanted to be independent, so she was looking for a source of income. Bennylyn started reselling vacuum cleaner parts online and also worked part-time in a nursing home. Despite this, she never abandoned her family and sent part of her earnings back to the Philippines. Bennylyn communicated daily with her relatives via video calls, despite the 8-hour time difference. Over time, Bennylyn realized she was ready for a new relationship and wanted to find love. In February 2021, 26-year-old Bennylyn registered on the dating site Filipina Cupid. This was a specialized platform where only Filipino women created accounts, and men from all over the world could meet them and find a partner. This is how she met a 50-year-old man from Scotland named Andrew Innes. He was born in 1970 and was twice Bennylyn's age. Bennylyn saw nothing wrong with the significant age difference, which was related to her cultural mindset. Many Filipinas believe that an older husband is wiser and better able to take care of the family. Her new acquaintance had a good higher education and worked as a developer for several companies producing computer games. At the time of their meeting, his freelancing activities allowed him to travel the world and provided a substantial income. Andrew had previously lived in Japan for many years, where he was married to a local woman. In 2002, they had a child, but the marriage did not last, and they divorced in 2019. Andrew returned to Scotland, where he resumed his search for a partner, this time specifically looking for a Filipina on a dating site. He was attracted to exotic women. He came across Bennylyn's profile, liked her immediately, and wrote to her. Bennylyn quickly found common ground with her new acquaintance. After some time, he decided to meet her in person. Andrew planned to bring her and her daughter to his home to spend some time together, and she agreed. Andrew seemed polite and kind. He drove 700 kilometers and took his new girlfriend and her daughter to Scotland on February 18, 2021. During this trip, Bennylyn called her sister Shelley, who lived in the Philippines, via video chat. Bennylyn was very pleased. She was flattered that Andrew had made such a long journey for her and was even surprised by it. After that, Andrew joined the conversation and met her sister through the same video chat. They all had a great time chatting and even joking. The man made a favorable impression on her sister. The next day, Bennylyn's new friend showed her the surroundings. They visited several landmarks and parks, after which Bennylyn also contacted her sister via video call and detailed what was happening. It was obvious that Bennylyn was literally glowing with happiness. Her sister hadn't seen her in such a good mood for a long time and was happy for her. Bennylyn also showed the house where her new friend lived. It was quite an old but well-maintained house. This was the last call with her sister. From February 20, 2021, Bennylyn and her daughter stopped calling and did not get in touch. For 2 days, her sister could not contact her relative, but kept trying. At first, she thought it was a connectivity issue, but gradually she realized it wasn't. Finally, Andrew himself contacted her and told her an incredible story. He said that Bennylyn and her daughter were with another man who lived in Glasgow. She was supposedly hiding from her ex-husband, Lexington, who intended to get custody of their daughter and deport Bennylyn back to the Philippines. His voice sounded quite convincing, and her sister believed him, although she knew that Lexington had previously shared custody with Bennylyn peacefully and never argued about it. So this seemed strange. The man convinced Shelley that her sister would get in touch as soon as she had the opportunity. He recommended that she throw away her mobile phone, not call him or Bennylyn, and change her number, as Lexington might try to contact them through her. Naturally, the relative did not get rid of her phone, as Andrew advised, considering it an extreme measure, but she remained quiet for a while. Then, when Bennylyn still did not get in touch, her sister tried all available options to reach her, including messengers and several video call options, but no one answered. Then she contacted Andrew again, who assured her that her sister was fine. She was safe and with a reliable person, a teacher. Nothing could happen to her, as Scotland was originally a very peaceful country with no crime. Shelley believed him again and calmed down for a while. She waited for her sister to get in touch, but that never happened. After 4 days of waiting, Shelley wrote to Andrew again. This time, she came up with a good way to verify his words. She asked him to record a video of Bennylyn talking about herself and her daughter, and addressing her directly. The man assured her that Bennylyn and her baby were fine, but instead of a new video, he sent an old one, recorded a few days before their disappearance, showing them walking in Scotland. He reiterated that they needed to wait and would be able to contact each other once Bennylyn and her daughter felt completely safe, away from Lexington. This made Shelley even more worried since her request hadn't been fulfilled, and it seemed strange. She tried again to find out from the man what was happening. Andrew responded that he was going to completely erase all data from his mobile phone and turn it off to protect himself from Bennylyn's ex-husband. He said he wouldn't communicate further out of fear of being discovered, but assured her he was doing everything possible to ensure the girls could contact each other when the opportunity arose. Shelley started to doubt Andrew's words and suspected something was wrong. However, she couldn't do anything as she was on the other side of the world. Meanwhile, on February 19th, Bennylyn's ex-husband Lexington came to her house to take their daughter for a walk, which was their usual practice after the divorce. He had the legal right to spend time with his child on certain days by agreement. However, no one opened the door. He tried calling Bennylyn but got no response for several days, which seemed suspicious. He became worried and reported to the police on March 1st, stating that his ex-wife and daughter were missing. The police immediately began searching for them. They searched Bennylyn's house but found no clues. Detectives reached out to the public for any information from people who had personal contact with Bennylyn before her disappearance, hoping that someone might know where she was and report it to the police. Meanwhile, the police started tracking her phone and bank card activity. There was no activity, and detectives also checked her social media and messaging apps to establish her circle of contacts and find clues. By March 5th, police had gathered enough information to learn that Bennylyn had recently met a man who came for her, and they had left for Scotland with her daughter. The last known location of her phone was in Dundee, Scotland. Police headed there and checked CCTV footage in the area. They saw Bennylyn with her daughter and an older man, presumably the one she had recently met on the website. Both were behaving calmly, suggesting that they were indeed fine and simply enjoying their time offline. Later, they identified the car the couple was using. The license plates led detectives to Andrew Innes' house on Troon Avenue in Dundee. They established that it was Andrew whom Bennylyn had met on the website, and he was with the missing people captured on camera. Police went to his house to talk to him. However, the man refused to open the door under the pretext of the lockdown. It was the height of the pandemic. He also said that his daughter had just come out of the bath, and he didn't want her to catch a draft, so he wouldn't open the door. These answers seemed completely ridiculous given the circumstances. The investigators were looking for Bennylyn and her child and only needed to ensure they were alive and well. The police began communicating with the man through the door and learned that Andrew had indeed met Bennylyn. They spent time together, but after a brief interaction, he took them to a cafe in Glasgow to meet a good friend and hadn't seen them since. While conversing through the door, one of the officers saw a little girl in the house through a window. She was in dry clothes with dry hair, lying on the couch watching TV. This meant that Andrew lied about her just coming out of the shower, simply not wanting to let the law enforcement officers into his home. It seemed he was hiding something, which raised the police's suspicions. Pressing the man, the officers managed to get inside. Andrew opened the door himself and let them in. Inside, they found a complete mess. All the kitchen furniture, appliances, table, and dishes were on the stairs. The kitchen was under renovation. The floor was torn up, and Andrew was laying new tiles. One of the detectives asked the girl if she was the homeowner's daughter, but she denied it. Everything seemed even more alarming. The officers pressed the suspicious man again with their questions. The investigators insisted they needed to contact Bennylyn and ensure she was alive. Andrew responded that he couldn't reach her, even though he had tried. The police then demanded the details of the man who supposedly took Bennylyn and her daughter, stating they were launching a kidnapping and potential murder investigation. Andrew became noticeably nervous but couldn't provide any information about his acquaintance. In the end, he broke down. According to him, he had a fight with Bennylyn and accidentally killed her during the altercation, and her body was under the kitchen floor. The police immediately asked where Jellica was. He replied that the girl was with her mother, and that the girl on the couch was another girl. Following this confession, Andrew was taken into custody. Several items from the house were seized as potential evidence. The operation to retrieve the bodies from under the concrete took 2 weeks. It was a challenging task. The bodies of Bennylyn and Jellica were indeed buried there. The house literally became their grave. Andrew had tried to cover it up by laying new tiles but hadn't finished. The police checked Andrew's communication devices and found he was subscribed to several sites with Filipino women. He was interested only in a specific type of woman, single mothers aged 20 to 30, with whom he actively corresponded. The investigators checked his correspondence with Bennylyn. It turned out he had tried several times to lure her in, offering well-paid jobs or under the pretext of friendship, and eventually succeeded. Andrew convinced her that he was a decent, wealthy man who could take care of her and her child. Bennylyn was very trusting and didn't suspect any danger. She didn't even take any belongings with her on the trip, including a change of clothes. She likely thought it would be a short trip without an overnight stay. The man's devices also revealed several sinister search queries about committing crimes, chloroform, crimes, and police in Scotland, and how to dispose of a body. All these queries preceded the fatal meeting. That's when the police learned how cleverly Andrew had invented new stories and misled Bennylyn's sister. But he still miscalculated. Fortunately, Bennylyn was not alone and kept in touch with her ex-husband, who became alarmed and reported the disappearance to the police. Throughout the case, the accused changed his testimony several times. Initially, he said he couldn't calm the woman's daughter, leading the mother to react very aggressively. She attacked him with a knife, so he killed her in self-defense. The final version of the man's testimony was much more sinister. According to him, when the mother and daughter arrived at his home, he saw in her all his past wives. It seemed to him that Bennylyn embodied the worst qualities of all these women. A real rage awakened within him, and he wanted to kill the innocent person standing before him. The man took a hammer and struck her on the back of the head. She fell, and he continued to hit her with the tool until she showed no signs of life. During the process, Andrew remembered he had a decorative samurai sword in his office. He went to get it, and upon returning, began to strike the lifeless victim repeatedly. After that, he took her body upstairs and placed it in the bathtub. For several days, he was in a semi-conscious state, as if in a fog, thinking about what to do next. During this period, he lived in the house with the body of the murdered woman. The girl constantly called for her mother and missed her, which infuriated him. Then it seemed logical to the murderer that the child should be sent to her. He strangled the girl, packed their bodies in garbage bags, wrapped them in blankets and tarpaulins, and then hid them under the kitchen floor, beneath a layer of concrete. Andrew said that he initially wanted to throw the bodies into a reservoir, but since he was renovating the kitchen, he decided it would be easier to bury them there. Autopsies revealed that Bennylyn had been killed by a combination of severe head injuries and stab wounds to the chest. Jellica died from strangulation. A 7-year-old girl found in Andrew's house turned out to be his sexual captive, whom he had kidnapped and held for about 2 weeks by the time the police arrived. During the house inspection, officers found something resembling an improvised bed on the living room floor with soft toys, where a girl was sleeping. The girl gave a statement to the detectives, confirming all of the above. Additionally, the girl mentioned that the kidnapper had engaged in sexual intercourse several times with a 2-year-old girl while it was still alive. Each time this happened, he handcuffed the girls, stuffed a sock in their beaks, and taped them shut to prevent them from struggling too much and making noise. All of these details were among the most horrific aspects of the crime. This case seemed to be the most gruesome the local police had ever encountered. Andrew's neighbor and other acquaintances were shocked by what had happened. They had considered him a normal person, somewhat secretive and reserved, but within reasonable limits. The only oddity they noted was that he was literally obsessed with cleanliness. The family of the deceased and her ex-husband were also shocked by Andrew's inhumane actions. Not only did he lure the mother and her daughter to kill them, but he also tortured and raped the daughter. They couldn't fathom what kind of monster one must be to commit such acts. Detectives found the very big hammer, handcuffs, sock, and tape with the victim's and perpetrator's DNA in the house, confirming the girl's story. Police discovered that the man had purchased all these items a week before the bloody event, indicating premeditation. In February 2023, Andrew Innes's trial began. The prosecution asserted that his actions were deliberate from the start. He specifically sought out a lone mother with a daughter, living far from relatives, knowing no one would look for them. He prepared for the murder by buying everything he needed in advance. The man repeatedly tried to lure her, as well as other victims, and eventually succeeded. The prosecutor believed that the true target of the kidnapping was not Bennylyn, but her daughter, towards whom he had an unhealthy interest. He initially planned to get rid of the mother to have unfettered access to the child. The defense claimed that the perpetrator was in an insane state at the time of the crime. He was clearly unaware of his actions and therefore required serious psychiatric help rather than imprisonment. However, the prosecution denied this. The meticulousness of his actions indicated otherwise. Andrew was sent for a psychiatric evaluation. It turned out that the man had previously been diagnosed with autism spectrum disorder, obsessive-compulsive disorder, and Crohn's disease. In this context, he claimed to have been taking a double dosage of steroid medications, which, according to him, caused hallucinations. He asserted that he was under their influence at the time of the murder, which could have impacted his actions. However, the psychiatrists rejected his story. According to the specialist, in a state of psychosis, he would not have been able to go to the store, purchase all necessary items, plan anything, or behave completely normally in society without attracting attention. Therefore, he was deemed sane and capable of standing trial. Andrew accused the girl he held captive in his house of lying. He claimed that she was mentally unstable and had fabricated the entire story of abuse, asserting that he had never assaulted her or Jellica. However, examinations revealed evidence of violence on both victims, including the defendant's DNA. Therefore, no one believed his words. Despite the defendant's protest, the jury, after deliberation, concluded that he was guilty on all charges. These included the premeditated murder of Bennylyn, the abuse and killing of her daughter, as well as the confinement and abuse of a 7-year-old girl found in Andrew's house. Andrew was sentenced to life imprisonment with the possibility of parole after serving 36 years. Andrew has filed several appeals, but all of them have been rejected. The police are still investigating Andrew's involvement in a number of similar unsolved cases and believe there is a high likelihood of his participation. However, he denies all of it. It's heartbreaking to think about what the victims and their families have gone through. I sincerely hope this monster named Andrew never gets out and that his appeals continue to be denied. The police need to thoroughly investigate his possible involvement in other unsolved cases to ensure justice for all the victims. This story is incredibly upsetting and raises many questions. Let's discuss it in the comments. If you liked this video, please support it with a like and subscribe to my channel. I also recommend other videos for you to watch. Thank you all, and goodbye.